Welcome back, folks. I am using the Thoth Tarot today, and I'm going to start shuffling, and whatever message Spirit wants to give us is the message that I will give. I don't believe that the Thoth Tarot needs reversals. It's pretty plain-spoken and even harsh when the circumstances call it for it to be harsh, okay? So if reversals pop into the deck as I'm shuffling, I'm not going to straighten them out, but otherwise I shuffle until Spirit asks me to stop. On the bottom, we have the 8 of Discs. Being careful, being grateful for what we have harvested or what is growing. It's not harvested yet, it's growing at the time. But this is all about balance, and 8 is also in alignment with the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith justice. This is what our hard work has wrought, and justice sees to it that we get to see the rewards. Okay? So no reversals needed. Here we've got Sun in Virgo. So this is when I said a Virgo about harvest. Virgo is the first part of the harvest, or I think around the middle time of the harvest, traditionally in agricultural season. Very detail oriented, but it's also about success with the sun right there. Here we've got the 5 of Wands. Strife. Got Saturn in Leo here with the astrological or the zodiac signs here. So right away, there's a harvest and people are going to be fighting over it. A harvest of something, if you want to take it literally, discs, money, but it's also about what makes our bodies physically comfortable. And I see people fighting over it, wands being associated with fire. Prayers and blessings to those who are currently in LA, in the LA area. No matter their income level, I hope that you are safe. I hope that your pets are safe. I am so sorry if you lost any property, dude. Reminding me of the fire. Okay. We've got the Magician here. This can go either way. Now this is interesting. This can go in the direction of people fighting for the harvest when there's plenty for everybody, for real. On the other hand, these can be people who use their abilities to fight for all of the harvest and share none of it, in spite of the fact that this can take care of everybody. It feels like the love of money is going to be the root of all evil in whatever situation this is discussing. And there are going to be very powerful people who use everything that they have in their power to get what it is that they want through fighting. I've already said on this channel before that the leadership that's incoming is going to be encouraging a civil war between the regular everyday civilians, because it keeps the attention off of them. It keeps the attention off of the wealthy class who keeps these resources away from others. If we don't see what they're doing, if we just fight mindlessly because panic, desperation, instead of tapping into ourselves and saying we will band together and we will rise and we will use all the tools that we have in order to have what it is that we both need and deserve. We fought for this. We grew this. Therefore, it should be the collective. It should be ours. But keep in mind that a lot of the leadership that's incoming are going to do their very best to prevent us from getting what it is that we deserve, earning what we deserve. We have here the Star, about hope in times of desperation. I'm placing it on top of the Prudence card here in just a bit. It's also about a time of healing. What we earn from this particular harvest can be deeply healing to these years, decades even, of great divisiveness. Spirit is asking me to flip the cards over towards the bottom of the deck. I drew the Prudence card from the bottom of the deck earlier. I'm looking at the Star card. I really, really like this version, this iteration of the Star card. Pouring out from one cup and pouring out from both cups. I enjoy the artwork in this particular deck. Water cleanses the earth. It cleanses people of the suffering that they've gone through. It provides nourishment. Whoop! And I just dropped the Star card. Excuse me. Star, together with the earth energy, is what is going to bring healing. It's what's going to make us feel that all is not lost. We didn't fight. We didn't struggle for this in vain. It's going to grow new things for us. It's going to be the start of a new era, and I would expect to see that out of Pluto and Aquarius. This is the transit that favors the collective after Pluto and Capricorn, which favors the powerful, the wealthy, the structure. Even when the structure needs to fall, even when it is out of date, even when it's harmful to the people that's keeping in line, it needs to fall. It needs to come apart. And we need that. A lot of people need that after Pluto and Capricorn finished up on November 19th, 2024. We have here the Prince of Discs, traditionally known as the Knight of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite-Smith. This is a very slow-moving, deliberate figure here. This is someone who doesn't need to go fast at all. Right here, he is driving Taurus, if you will. Another slow-moving kind of character, very comfortable in the powers of Libra. Loving, enjoys good food, enjoys the slower times, doesn't like to go fast, seldom runs. Speaking as someone who spends a lot of time around cows, they only run for like cow candy, alfalfa cubes, okay? But this is someone who's very deliberate, hardworking, careful worker as well. And next, we've got the Seven of Cups, debauchery. Now, this is interesting. The Prince of Discs lands on my particular spread on top of the Five of Wands. There's the real possibility, a risk of our hard, careful work going to waste, of us tearing this up because we're so hell-bent on fighting each other. This is the risk that all the hard work that we put into this harvest that could be ours, should be ours, could actually all be just destroyed in flames if we're not very, very careful about appreciating the hard work of others. If we just all throw it away, then all that harvest is for nothing and we don't get to enjoy it. The people in power, though, will. Now, I pulled the Seven of Cups, debauchery or debauch. This is a point where the people in power have had so much that they literally vomit. Literally, figuratively in a sense. It's just so much. It's kind of a sickly card, too, if you look carefully. And I'm sorry about the quality of my camera. Excuse me. This is about eating and drinking and consuming so much that it makes the wealthy elite sick. Nobody wins in this situation, not even the wealthy elite. The plutocracy, the plutocracy, Pluto, what goes on underneath. The people who run the United States in an invisible way. We've got some of those people in Texas right now who are pushing a evangelical Christian curriculum into our public schools, slowly destroying it from the inside, from beneath on up, with money, with power, what you would expect from a Pluto an underworld kind of transit, a leftover from Pluto and Capricorn. We're going to continue to see some of that, I believe, until 2027. Landing on top of the Prudence card, the Eight of Pentacles, the Eight of Discs, the Star, we've got the Three of Wands, Virtue, Sun in Aries, so a very, very heavy fire sign, if you will. And I should say, with the Debauchery card, this is Venus in Scorpio. What I was saying earlier about Pluto, that's associated with Scorpio. So this is someone who indulges, or this is the wealthy elite who indulge so much that they cause their own deaths. Not literal deaths in a sense, but they bring about the end of an era. Scott Galloway, a very, very wealthy individual who is quite aware of what's going on, has talked about basically the wealthy elite of the United States encouraging a revolution simply by continuing to consume as much as possible. It's never enough for those people, is what Scott Galloway has said. Definitely take a look at his TED Talk that he released relatively recently. It's a good one, okay? Well, let me go back to the Three of Wands, Virtue, the Sun in Aries. Aries is willing to fight for causes when it's in a good state. Virtue, if you will, is willing to fight for causes that nobody else will. They're willing to burn the ground around people who would destroy those who have worked so hard for this harvest and who are in desperate need of healing. Here's what I've got. Okay? And the sun favors it. This is all about first energy. The sun comes first. Aries comes first in the astrological calendar. And this is one that is very willing and happy to fight for those who need healing after possibly having been robbed of their hard work that goes into a harvest that they deserve to see. This is a healing Aries, not one who's just willing to burn ground willy-nilly, but is willing to fight for a cause that it believes in. We are currently going through a Mars retrograde, and later on Mars will come home to its sign of Aries. Sorry if I hit the microphone. We have here the Ace of Discs. When Sun in Aries burns down ground that it was time to let go of, burns underbrush that has been clogging up a forest, if you will, then we have the ability to grow new things that we deserve to have. That's when the universe says, now that the old has passed away, now you can welcome in new stuff. I can tell you from firsthand experience, it is horrifying to watch a forest that you grew up with be burned down to the ground. But come back a few years later, and there's new growth being born. Those trees that I thought were so beautiful did burn, and it's horrific to watch that. But those trees also blocked new growth because they were so enormous. Their foliage up top blocked out new growth underneath them. And so when the forest burned, as nightmarish as it was, as it can be, that's when new growth is allowed to come through. Here's what we've got, the Ace of Discs. And the Ace of Discs lands on top of the Prince of Discs and on top of Strife. Once again, fire energy making way for new opportunities. But the Prince of Discs also knows perfectly well what it means for fire to let go of. Let's say, for instance, a harvest has already been pulled up, but what's left behind needs to be burned away in order for new growth to be able to be properly planted the next year. The Prince of Discs absolutely understands that. As painful as strife may be, as long as we don't fight amongst the collective, as long as the collective fights against the powers that hold the collective back, that is what will allow new growth. The thing is, we can't allow it to get out of hand. The Prince of Discs is not likely to let things get out of hand because he is such a slow-moving, careful, deliberate, even stubborn energy. And it's also about Earth. When you need to put out a grass fire, again, also from firsthand experience, I live in Texas, okay? When you need to put out a grass fire, you dig up earth and dump it on the fire. In fact, if you want to contain a fire to an area as fast as you possibly can, you need to have a team of people digging a trench around that particular fire. It makes it more difficult. Now, there's still sparks that can hop over, but the earth makes it more difficult for that fire to do anything. Earth puts out fire. And I see right here quite a bit of earth. There is that potential for the collective to realize that it's not other members of the collective that's the problem. It's the plutocracy that is the problem. We have here the Aeon, also known as the Judgment card here. And it lands on top of debauchery and on top of the Magus, the magician. If the plutocracy that's in place continues to consume endlessly Jupiter energy without Saturn to limit it, then the Aeon, the Judgment card, comes into play. Enough is enough. This is Saturn, even if Saturn does not appear on this particular card. This is not limitless consumption. This is not consumption that goes without punishment. The collective may not do anything. This could go either way this particular year and next and the next after that. But what the universe is recording and is paying attention to, it will punish. It will right. It will make things correct. It will bring things back into balance. And my eye is being drawn once again to the Star card and about how there will be healing regardless. The universe will see to that. Balance must be restored. So, Spirit is asking no more from the Thoth deck. I'm going to move into my Sufi wisdom cards. I enjoy using these to close out a reading with a more gentle, loving angle. Let's shuffle. I've actually just one shuffle today. Limitation is power. We were talking about Saturn earlier. Yep, and the Five of Wands. Saturn came through earlier. Allow our fights to be limited to some groups, such as the wealthy elite, who have kept so many resources, so much money just to themselves. When the pandemic started, or when it started to really get underway, that was one of the biggest wealth transfers that the United States had ever seen. We're supposed to allow that knowledge to fuel our understanding that temperance is at play here, that balance must come back into play. Limitation is power. Lean into your limitations. If the harvest is hoarded, and it might be, very well might be, then what can you do to hang out with others? What can you do to assist others and ask others to assist you? This is one of those circumstances where if you don't ask, you don't get. Okay? Imagination. Draw from the well of your own capabilities. Absolutely, this is about the creativity that I see right there at the Magus. The Magus doesn't just symbolize the wealthy elite. That's power that can go either way, towards the collective or towards the plutocracy. This is asking the collective to become imaginative when it comes to preventing fights from breaking out within the collective, but also limiting the damage that may come from people within the collective fighting each other. Because desperation, panic, feeling the end approaching and not knowing how to handle it, And last and not least, difficult one possibly, surrender with joy. Achieve greatness through surrender. Absolutely choosing to surrender to the will of the universe, even when it's painful, because the universe is taking away things that no longer serve us and is bringing us new, better things. An expansion of consciousness, for instance. Expansion of consciousness does not have to come through physical warfare. It can come through spiritual warfare. And choosing to delete the ego, let go of the ego, surrender the ego with joy, understanding that something new and better is coming in its place. If it gets painful, and I know that it will, please reach out to other people, because they're most likely going through a difficult circumstance themselves too. And sharing pain is how we grow community. And saying, we're going through this together, we're all in this together. So what can we do to lessen each other's burdens? Thank you for watching if you got to this point. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.